Do you have a comment about the comment that President Biden made recently?
Well, I guess I'm not surprised that Biden doesn't remember me. I guess the question is what else has he forgotten?
Just want to thank you both, and I want to thank the former general. I keep calling him general, but the guy who runs that outfit over there. Sylvia Garcia, Lizzie Pinelli, Pinell, and what am I doing here? I'm going to lose track here. And saying governors need to be able to get funding when they need to and bring their National Guard into play. The vast majority of economists, left, right, and center, from Wall Street to the private economic polling initiatives. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by go. You know the thing.
He was using your words about don't be in the way, and he's saying I am in the way to block too much interference from the federal government. Your response, Mr. President?
Governor who?
Why is he?
So the question is, it's a great question. What about the fall school year? What's our direction to the school districts and other schools? And our direction is, relatively simple. Have a normal school year. Okay? So I think we anticipated, and I said publicly, this is our COVID season. We thought we would see an increase. I don't know that we thought we would necessarily see this many positive tests and some of the hospital admissions, just because if you look, we've got 91% of seniors who are the most likely to be hospitalized have gotten at least one shot. It's pretty much of age 50 and above. It's 80% roughly who are vaccinated. And of course, people have recovered from COVID in those age groups too. So that's even more in terms of the immunity. But I think that this Delta variant is more contagious. I think it's aerosolized. I think it's highly transmissible. We saw that in the United Kingdom. Saw a really quick ascent. And it tops off and then comes down. So I think that it's following similar pattern. It's just going very quickly. And but patients, if you remember last November, when the Pfizer data came out for the vaccine, that obviously made really big news. But around that same time, you were getting EUAs, or it was in the pipeline to where the data was coming out for some of the monoclonal antibodies, including Regeneron, which is what Tampa General had been doing in their trials. I went up to meet with Warp Speed when the Pfizer data came out last, November. And we obviously were planning on the vaccine distribution, all that. But I also was talking about the monoclonals. And they said, well, the hospitals aren't going to want to do it because you got this infusion center, so you guys got to figure out, maybe you have to set something up. So I called John and others. I called John. I said, so do you want us to do something? He said, no. We're all over this. We're going to do it. And so they've really leaned into very little attention and have still really gotten very little attention. But these are now authorized for the treatment of people who have contracted COVID. You usually got to do it early, so it's really for people that have mild to moderate symptoms. And this has been shown to basically, if people aren't creating an immune response, if they're not developing antibodies in response to the infection, this is an antibody cocktail that gets administered via IV and provides an ability to fight back. And the results in the trials were a 70% reduction in hospitalization or death. And I think the data, and they'll talk about the data here about how that's gone, but I can tell you, you got to go with data. You can't go with anecdote. At the same time, 100% of the people that I've talked to who have done this will say they felt really bad when they got infected. They got it. and it cleared within 24, 48 hours a lot of time. Obviously, President Trump had it famously before it got the EUA last October. And so,
do you have any data to suggest that? Do you know if they were wearing masks? Well, they're not right. They're not eligible for the vaccination. I mean, that's not. I mean, you know, well, so you're blaming the kids, saying they weren't wearing masks and so they're in the ICU. With all due respect, I find that deplorable to blame a victim who ends up being hospitalized. You don't know their story. You don't know what happened with that. And this has been a really negative thing throughout this whole thing with some of these quote experts, some of the media. Somebody contracts a highly transmissible airborne virus, and they're viewed as having done something wrong. And that's just not the way you do it. When people come in, you treat them. You know, we
Not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
That goes too far. Time for a Truthometer Minute. Hi, I'm John Greenberg with PolitiFact. Here's what we know about the vaccines. 1. They do a great job of keeping you out of the hospital. If you're fully vaccinated, the odds of getting very sick are about 4 out of 100,000. That's like finding 4 unlucky people in the city of Green Bay, Wisconsin. 2. The vaccines do an even better job of keeping you alive. The latest CDC numbers show that about 161 million people have been fully vaccinated. Of those, 1,141 have died. And not all of those people died from COVID. About a quarter of them happened to have the virus, but it was not the cause of death. But even with the larger number, that comes out to 7 deaths out of 1 million.
You're in a situation now where a lot of the folks who are not taking it, it's accessible to everyone, they have different reasons for why they don't take it. And I think that the more they're hectored by government officials or some of these folks, that is not going to get them to yes. I can tell you that right now.
Will you require all federal employees to get vaccinated?
That's under consideration right now, but if you're not vaccinated, you're not nearly as smart as I thought you were.
I think these are folks that have skepticism of authorities. I think they have different reasons why they may not do it. I don't think most of them think COVID is a hoax or anything. I think that they understand. Some of them are very young and healthy, and they're making the calculation that they'll likely be able to handle it, and I understand that too. But as you're trying to reach some of these folks, I think it's important to just be honest with them about the risks of COVID. If they are in a less risky category, you should just be honest with that and not try to scare people into taking it, which a lot of these authorities have done. They see that, and I think that they're very keen on that. So what my view has always been is these vaccines, and you can look at the EUAs, there are occasionally some side effects. But if you're 70 years old, man, the benefit is so much better than worrying about some of that. It's not even close. You know, as you
to point out Biden's penchant for telling what they describe as tall tales. For example, in reference to the COVID vaccines, Biden said, which we didn't have when I came into office. Well, fact check, that is, of course, completely false. In fact, he received 2 vaccine shots himself while President Trump was still in the White House.
What is he so upset about Florida? His solution is he wants to have the government force kindergartners to wear masks in school. Joe Biden also believes that vaccination should be mandated by force of government and that you should have to show vaccination status to be able to participate in society. So I think the question is we can either have a free society or we can have a biomedical security state. I don't want to hear a blip about COVID from you.